Jai Baba, everyone, and welcome to this is our 15th session. We only have tonight and 3 more to go till we finish up the series, but there will be more to come later on. So we're going to have a 1-hour reading. We're going to try to get through 3 of the talks tonight, if we can. If we can't, we'll figure it out somehow. So Ward, take it away. Oh, Ward, you forgot to unmute. Wait. Didn't lose you, did I? There you go.
There. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, good. Okay, well, we are now coming to the 28th of December, and there's a change that's going to happen. Baba is going to start talking about the path, the spiritual path. So this is kind of the big divide in this series of talks, right, with this one here. Actually, we had some of it last time, but now he gets more into it. And just as a reminder for those who have been at previous sessions, it was really at this time, right in this period, that there was real signs among these boys that something was happening among them. It had been kind of in evidence from the beginning, but it was really building momentum now. Some of them were beginning weeping and very strong emotions. And in the second of these talks tonight, this is the 28th and the 29th, as you'll see, Baba gives a very strong indication that he's the avatar of the age, one of the very rare occasions on which he said that back in those days. So we're coming into, a new kind of material now. Okay.
Crypt Cabin, Wednesday, 28th of December, 1927. Yesterday, we saw that through the course of evolution, forms pass from within the earth to its surface, and from there down again into the water, and then out again onto the earth's surface, thence up into the air, and lastly back to the surface of the earth. Thus, through the series of forms, the evolving Jivatma comes up, goes in, rises up, and descends back down again. This evolutionary process is depicted in Figure 35 on the following page, which reproduces much of the information from Figure 34, but introduces a new distinction, one between the plains and the skies. This diagram will be the most important in illuminating the next few lectures. It will help us a great deal in understanding the 7 divisions in energy.
Okay, let's take a look at this figure, which is this one here. Actually, let me just jump back to that earlier one we had. This figure here showed the same basic theme, that is, on the right-hand side, the evolution from stone up to human form, the 7th cardinal form, with the veil of samskaras keeping human consciousness from realizing itself. And then on the left, the progress through the planes from the 1st to the 7th, with the different, some of the names for advanced souls here on the left. We saw that last time. So this diagram is very much related to that. I mean, it's the same basic topic, except this time, it moves in the opposite direction. So you see this stone, metal, vegetable, worm, fish, bird, animal, in human form, the veil of samskaras. And on this side, you see the passage through the plains. But what's new this time in this diagram is the skies, or the asmans, associated with the plains. And this is a topic which Baba is going to begin to explain here. So this first sky has 3 parts, the second sky has 2, the third has 3, etc. Why don't, if you could, Melissa, read the key to this figure, because there's going to be more discussion of it when we go back to the primary text.
Key to Figure 35. In many of its essentials, Figure 35 reproduces Figure 34, with 3 main points of divergence. First, Figure 35 incorporates representation of the skies or asmans alongside the plains on the left side. As the text of these lectures describes, the skies are more distant from the plains at the beginning of the involutionary path. But after a sharp bend between the third and fourth planes, they come close to each other. The other major distinguishing features of Figure 35 are that it depicts evolution and involution as a downward movement from top to bottom, and that the ordinary state, originary? That's
Originary, yeah.
Yeah, the originary state at the top is represented by an arc. In these details, the artist-editor team has followed the major source in the Explanations manuscript. The only other source diagram in Ramju's Explanations in pencil is conceptually garbled. No obvious significance seems to attach to the reversal in the direction of movement from ascending to descending between figures 34 and 35. The arc at the top recalls early figures, such as figures 5 to 9, in which this shape represented God in his original state as the source of creation. Evolution, on the right, does seem to emanate from such an original God state, but the involutionary path through the plains and skies, on the left, would seem to take its start from the world of the human at the bottom right, and not from God beyond. For a far more detailed representation of the plains and skies, including additional information on the subsections of each sky, see Figure 36.
Let me jump to Figure 36 for just a second so that this will be our roadmap. It's this one here. These are the plains and the different skies. We'll be getting to that soon. So the skies are a dominant topic now. Asmans is another word for them. Okay.
And was that, okay, so am I in this diagram?
Yes, that's right.
In this
When you get to the
diagram,
note, it'd probably be good to read the footnote also, 2 sentences down.
okay, I shall. In this diagram, the 6 small circles arranged in a vertical line on the right side represent the major classes of form in evolution. The 6 circles in a parallel vertical line in the center mark the 6 planes of the spiritual path, while the 6 circles on the left-hand side, curving toward the center at the bottom, stand for the skies, or asmans. The words sky and asman are used interchangeably in this and the remaining lectures of this series. Though Baba had occasionally adverted to the asmans in Infinite Intelligence, he provided no clear description there. The best elucidation of the distinction between the skies and the plains is given in this lecture and those that follow. Another interesting and unique analysis of the relation between the asmans and the plains was given by Baba on the 20th of May, 1926, for which see Infinite Intelligence, page 599. Okay, Note that the first three skies are parallel in their descent to the first three planes, though they stand at a distance. At the fourth stage, the skies curve sharply and approach the planes more closely, to the point where, at the sixth stage, the plane and sky are almost immediately adjacent to each other.
Okay, so here's that figure again. And you can see that the first three, the skies and the planes are at a distance, right? But between the third and the fourth plane, the path seems to pass through a sharp curve, whatever on earth that means. And that's represented here in this diagram. Okay, let's see. Okay, now we're down at the bottom side of this page.
Now, what is the difference between the planes and the skies? We could compare a sky to a city and a plane to the railway station therein. The city of Ahmednagar, for example, is situated almost a mile from the Ahmednagar railway station. Since 1927, the city of Ahmednagar has exploded to encompass its railway station, which is located at the south end of the city in the direction of Mehrabad. But in the 1920s, the railway station stood apart from the city. Railway travelers would sometimes use tongas to transport between the two. For purposes of this analogy, compare Ahmednagar to the first sky and its railway station to the first plane. Then again, one can think of other cities that are closer and even closer still to their stations. In the case of Lonavala, the city and station are immediately next to each other. This is like the sixth plane. To return then to our evolutionary narrative, the Jivatma, who succeeds in arriving at the human form after advancing through the innumerable various forms in the series of evolution, then moves through the planes, Marg, if he has the good fortune of getting turned. If not, he has to trudge endlessly through the rounds of birth and death in human form, like the ox in the oil mill that we spoke of yesterday. But when at last the turning happens, he enters the path and reaches the first plane, which is the first station on the way to the goal. Now, bear in mind that the skies, or cities and villages, have absolutely no connection with God or the destination, but the stations, or planes, do. Only the stations or planes have this link. But from each of the planes, there are two off-ramps, two ways of proceeding further. One of them, the path of direct planes, Marg, takes the traveler onto the next station or plane, and thence onwards to the goal. The other diverts him to the city, from which he eventually needs to circle back and advance onward from the plane or station. One can always take the exit, in other words, from plane to sky, from station to city. Wise is that traveler who moves on directly from station to station without wasting time in the cities. But accomplishing this, holding fast to one's course and avoiding the diversions and sidetracks of the cities, is by no means easy. For the cities or skies are visible from their respective stations, and they glow and allure and beckon with signs promising wonderful sights and experiences. If one advancing through the plains, Marg, gets drawn into the city or village, as the case may be, he finds there so much to see and experience and enjoy, eating, drinking, indeed, unimaginable and indescribable wonders and sights and splendors. The one without the guidance of a guru finds it almost impossible to check the impulse of witnessing and immersing himself in these delightful experiences. And since these wonders and splendid sights only go on increasing tremendously in each of the higher skies, one can imagine how difficult it must be to check oneself from enjoying them.
Thank you, Melissa. Interesting stuff. And Sam, will you want to pick up from there?
Sure. Engaged in the enjoyment of these higher pleasures, utterly engrossed in the luster and attraction of what he sees, completely forgetting his original aim of advancing to his real and ultimate destination, the pilgrim misses his train and finds himself with no choice but to wait for another to pull into the station and convey him onwards along the path. In this way, progress is often impeded when the pilgrim gets diverted from the station to the city, that is, from the plain to the sky. Indeed, enjoyment of the skies not only retards one's onward advance, but subjects one to the hazard of actually getting dragged backwards. Despite all of this, if the pilgrim somehow manages to begin to forge ahead, he advances from the first plane to the second, and with great difficulty on through the third. Up through the third stage of the journey, the setbacks that he suffers do not involve all that much real permanent danger, since whatever he loses, he has still the chance of regaining through great privations and hardships. The fourth plane, however, is another matter. Here, one runs up against a great check and is confronted with terrible dangers. For the fourth plane teems with infinite powers, and what is worse, the fourth plane is extremely close to the fourth sky. Or in the terms of our analogy, the city is immediately proximate to the station, as we find in the city of Lonavala. Tempted by the allure of what he sees in the city, the traveler exposes himself to the moral hazard of getting entrapped all the way back down to
Oops,
stone form.
wrong page.
Oh, did I?
Oh, trapped, excuse me. Getting entrapped
In the experience of Maya.
in the experience of Maya and the many powers he finds there. And if so snared, he can't escape. Take the analogy of a penniless man, a beggar who has 45 children dying of hunger. Wandering about with his young retinue, the beggar keeps ardently wishing that if somehow he could come up with just 10 rupees, he could then manage the food, the boarding of all his children, at least for one day. Now suppose that suddenly he happens upon an immense heap of wealth and treasure, a huge pyramid of rupees and other precious coins. Tell me, will he stop on his way, divert from his previous course, and dip into the pile? Would it be possible for him to check himself from what good fortune seems to have placed at his fingertips? Of course not. And the result would be most unfortunate, most deplorable. In the same way, it is next to impossible for the unguided traveler to refrain from the temptations of the fourth plane. For the powers he finds there are such as to enable him to do whatever he wants by way of miracles. By the mere wish of it, he can produce unimaginable supernatural phenomena. Yet the moment he avails himself of these almighty powers, he gets hurled all the way back to stone form. This is why the fourth plane stands as the juncture of supreme jeopardy on the spiritual path. Think of a motor car driven at high speed along a straight road that unexpectedly comes upon a sudden sharp curve. What will happen? Naturally, the car will hurtle off the road, tumbling and flipping upside down and topsy-turvy, as we have seen, and as figure 35 shows. One meets with just such a curve at the fourth plane. Now, if one were to fall from the third plane, one could always make one's way back again to the third or second, and likewise for other lower stations on the path. Not so in the case of the fourth plane. From here, one plummets all the way back down to stone form. And why? Because of the tremendous forces involved. The gigantic setback is proportionate to the immensity of the powers of the Shaktis, which, when turned back upon themselves, hurl one back down to the most rudimentary stages of the journey. Shall I read the footnote?
Yeah, let's see what this says.
Meher Baba gave to his men Mandali a fuller account of how this happens in one of his so-called Tiffin lectures, 29th April 1926. The more you draw the string of a bow, the greater the force and velocity with which the arrow shoots out and flies through the air, and the farther it will go. In this way, the counteraction of the fourth plane powers throws one all the way back to the stone form beginnings. Such are the perils faced by those who venture the spiritual path on their own. By contrast, the one advancing under the guidance of a Sadguru incurs no such risk. For such a one is permitted only to see and not to experience the full enjoyment. That is, from the beginning of the path onwards, the Guru never allows him to stray into the city and get engrossed in its pleasures, but instead forces him onwards from station to station, vouchsafing to him only the sight of the cities or skies from the stations or plains, all from a safe distance. In this way, the hazard of getting stuck in the skies and thus having one's progress retarded or even reversed is completely eliminated. So now time is up for today. Tomorrow we'll try to garner some idea of what each of these skies or asmans contains. But you must have marked already that these skies or asmans harbor nothing of value. Asman mankaidam nati guntai javeche, so far as progress towards the goal is concerned. On the contrary, they drown you in, should we read the footnote?
That's just a literal
Okay,
translation
that's
of
fine.
the same thing. We can
Drown
skip
you
it, I
in-
think.
Okay, drown you in myopic pleasure and retard your progress. Real worth resides in the plains. But unless one gets a turn, it is impossible to proceed, even by the sky marg, let aside the plains marg. Without turning, one cannot gain access to the station. And without the help of the Sadguru, that turn cannot be made. And the Sadguru does not give this turn unless a heavy price is paid, the price of a deep devotion and a profound LOVE, love.
Hmm.
Good job, Sam.
Yeah.
Let's see, can we have, let me find her here. Diana, can you read for the, where are you? There you go.
Okay, so this is Crypt Cabin, Thursday, the 29th of December, 1927. In the latter part of this lecture, Baba gave one of the rare early hints of his own role and standing as avatar of the age. He gave some further intimations on the nature of his esoteric spiritual work with the Meher Ashram boys at this time, and that's from the editors. The plains and the skies. Now the one who progresses through the plains marg, or path, can see the first sky or asman from the first plane. If he is traversing the first plane without a guru or guide, and such gurus and guides are exceedingly rare, he stands in hazard of stopping during this stage of his journey. And if he leaves his body in this condition, he is reborn in human form as an ordinary person. Of course, he inhabited an ordinary, gross human body during his previous lifetime on the first plane, but at that time his mind was turned. This kind of rebirth can go on recurring throughout one's progress as far as the third plane. That is to say, after leaving the body of one lifetime, one takes another human body as an ordinary person in the next. The difference is that what's that? How do we-
Yoga Brasht. Let's pause here and why don't you read that note and then I want to show you guys something else.
Okay, Rob Brasht here seems to designate a yogi who, simply because he was traveling without a master or got stuck on one of the plains or in one of the skies, has been compelled after dying and in the course of his next rebirth to return to gross plane consciousness and recapitulate progress from there. On the change in meaning that this phrase underwent in Meher Baba's usage in later decades, see glossary.
Okay, I'd just like to show you this feature of the book that you'll find. Let's see, where are we at here? Okay, there is as you can see, there's a very, extensive glossary of major words. And one of its features is that in certain cases, this being one of them, right here, you'll get Yoga Brasht. In Creation Its Cause as a spiritual pilgrim on any of the first three planes who, because he was traveling without the guidance of a master, was compelled after death to fall back to gross consciousness and to recoup lost spiritual progress in his next lifetime. That's something I don't think we knew. Baba's explaining that if you're without a master, the first three planes, you have to make the trek over. But here's what I just wanted to show you. Here you see Yoga Brasht. This is a survey of the different uses which this term had. Its meaning shifted a bit over the decades in Baba. So this is one of the features you can find in the glossary. It's quite an interesting term for people who are interested in such things. I being one of those, of course. Let's see, where were we? Okay, yeah. So we are right down at the bottom here. Yeah, maybe you could start that sentence over and then we'll go on to the next page.
Okay, but I'm gonna need help at the end.
Okay,
of
why
that.
don't I read this little bit until we get
Okay.
beyond the Gujarati. The
Okay.
difference is that as a Yog Brasht or fallen yogi, Yog Brasht Telo Hovati, and what that means is leaving, having become a Yoga Brasht.
Okay, so one secures such rebirth that, back in the gross human form, one wins the opportunity once again to turn and recoup former progress up as far as he had achieved in his previous lifetime. Having left his previous body while in the state of third plane consciousness, for example, in his next birth, he proceeds gradually and step by step from the first plane to the second, and from the second to the third, winning back his previous station. All of this pertains again to the case of those who travel without a guru or master. For those with a master, the story runs on very different lines, and we will be explaining shortly. Now, on the fourth plane, as you have been told repeatedly, if the pilgrim exercises his powers for the making of miracles, he tumbles all the way back to stone form after dropping that human body. While crossing the fourth plane, he finds himself under a tremendous inducement to wield these powers. For this reason, the fourth plane is a place of great danger on the path. But if good fortune prevails and he refrains from the use of his powers, after leaving his body, he takes birth once again in a human form directly on the fourth plane, without having to pass through the intermediate gradual stages of the first, second, and third planes. That is, he takes birth already endowed with the fourth plane experience. Now we come to the fifth plane. When a pilgrim on this plane leaves his body, he takes birth again directly with the fifth plane experience. But at this stage, he incurs no risk or danger of falling back. Please help.
Bandho nahi ahi. It just means no problem here.
Okay. Indeed, he is almost mukt, almost free. Of such a one, Kabir says,
Okay. Asant bij palte nahi jo jug jaye anant. Jahan jai taha avtare ta he sant ka sant. And the
This-
literal meaning of that is,
okay.
you want to read that?
Yeah, literally, this Hindi couplet translates, the saint's seed does not change even if endless yugas pass. Wherever he goes, there he incarnates, but the saint is always a saint.
Okay.
And then here, the translation, the seed of the saint never changes even if ages pass, for wherever he goes and wherever he takes birth, he always remains a saint. In short, on the fifth plane, the risk and danger of falling have been forever left behind. When a soul on the sixth plane sets aside his body, however, he enters into the seventh plane and never takes the human form again, having achieved the realization of God. On the sixth plane, even while retaining consciousness of the human form, he sees self or God, although he is not yet one with it. Indeed, from the fifth plane upward, all are conscious of the presence of self. And the footnote reads, as God speaks explains, the fifth plane Wali is aware of the presence of God, even though the veil blocks sight. When one progresses to the sixth plane, the veil is lifted and one sees God face to face.
Okay.
The Maz, do you want me?
Yeah,
did you
keep
want-
going. Yeah.
Okay, the Majzub of the seventh plane is immediately conscious of self, but not of the world. It is all the same to him whether he wears a body or not. But those in the sixth plane remain conscious of the universe, and some get a chance of realization while still keeping the body and without having to drop it. But they don't take this opportunity and don't even like it. And why not? Because they know that after leaving the body, they will be realized, God realized. And they also know that if realized while still in the body, they will become Majzubs, since no guru has entered into the picture. So they require, or rather desire, realization bestowed upon them by a Sadguru, since then they will retain consciousness. Should I read that?
Yeah. And this note, it's a bit unclear what consciousness means there.
The original text leaves an ambiguity here. Do these peers of the sixth plane want the creation consciousness after realization that they would experience in the state of Baka-Bila? Or do they simply want the full experience of God's trio nature as power, knowledge, bliss, as opposed to the experience of bliss only that comes with mukti? Baba had not yet explained these subtle points. He did not do so fully until almost 30 years later with the publication of God Speaks. The present passage gives no clue as to which of these two distinctions Baba was adverting to, but later in this lecture, Baba uses the word conscious to mean creation conscious, as in Baka-Bila. So one would presume that that is his meaning here. For further textual details, see endnotes 6 and 11 on pages 602 through 603.
Okay.
Are you okay to go on for a little more? Or?
Sure. Okay. I'm right after at the top.
Yeah. You just two words in.
Got it. These advanced souls on the sixth plane are called peers. They can see only the planes and not the skies or kingdoms of evolution. There is indeed a world of difference, like the difference between earth and sky.
Zamin asmano tafavache. That's Gujarati. It means it's been literally translated already.
Okay, between the peers on the sixth plane and the Sadgurus of the seventh. By contrast, those in the circle of a Sadguru have no connection with this business of the planes and so forth. But what of circle members in the Sadguru's company, Sahavas, whom his grace turns? What of their case? Let's look into the matter. Those whom the Sadguru himself puts in the first plane, after they leave their body, take birth again in the same station, that is, in the first plane. But they advance at once onto the second plane, and thence onwards from the second to the third, and from the third to the fourth, etc. Their experience runs contrary to that of pilgrims traveling the plains without a guru, who have to make strenuous efforts to proceed gradually on the path and recapitulate former progress. A further advantage enjoyed by those who advance under the guidance of a guru is that they incur no risk of falling into snares.
Mo jalma fasi padvani dasti nati. And the literal translation of that is, the difference is like earth and sky.
But usually the Sadguru gives the experience of the fourth plane without the intermediate experience of the first, second, and third. And he does so all in one lifetime without the necessity of leaving the body, so that the one whom he is guiding should be spared the trouble and risk that he would otherwise have to endure. Then again, if he leaves the body while on the fourth plane, after rebirth, the pilgrim moves on to the fifth plane at once, has the experience of the sixth plane added to that, and proceeds directly to the seventh plane and the realization of God without leaving the body. That is, he accomplishes all this progress through the fifth and sixth and onto the seventh plane in one single lifetime. Some such souls, under the care of a Sadguru, are made into Majzubs immediately, but these individuals cannot come back to creation consciousness, for such return has been reserved for circle members only. But the Majzubs are the same as the circle members in their experience of realization. They differ only in respect to this matter of the return. But the process of their realization involves much less trouble, and the chief thing, after all, is to realize. So try all of you to proceed with the aid of one who is realized, so that you can avoid all danger and risk of a fall and reach the goal easily and quickly. Now there is one further point to be brought to your notice, and this point is most important. When the avataric period comes, the avatar, and the footnote reads, though Meher Baba did not actually declare himself to be the avatar of the age until 1954, in this part of the lecture he seems to be hinting at something of the kind. Baba had given no such indications in the dictations extending from early 1926 through August 1927, represented in Infinite Intelligence or Tiffin lectures. This present passage seems to record a significant adumbration on Baba's part. So, when
what does adumbration mean? What?
A hinting or a foretelling.
Okay.
When the avataric period comes, the avatar can do all that a Sadguru does. He cultivates a circle and prepares it just like a Sadguru. But in addition, he does one special thing. That is, when a person who is not even in the circle gets turned and realized, he, the avatar, can make him a Salik with creation consciousness as well as realization, instead of a Majzu. And having done so, the avatar can give him a special duty.
Tahir avike jo circle na nahi bihoi to bi khuda sate ek kare wali dunia duty bi apshake che etle takat che.
Fact.
Love it.
Diana's definite on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, should we read the translation?
Literally, this handwritten Gujarati sentence translates, if the whim comes, even if they are not of the circle, even then he could make them one with God and yet give them worldly duties. So much power is there. Although written in the Gujarati script, the first lexical element in, I don't know what that word is.
Circle now.
Okay, it's nothing other than the English word circle.
Thank you, Diana. Good job. All right, are we ready to go on? We'll have
Yeah.
Elizabeth next.
At this juncture, Shri dropped reference to the fact that if he gets the hooky, a few selected from among the boys of the ashram may at once get realization and be brought back for special duty. But for this to happen, the time must come along with the arising of the hooky, Delving into this subject further, Shri cited the example of Shri Krishna, who brought down 17 extra persons after realization, all of them outside the circle. Indeed, one of them was a boy of only 11 years of age. Let me see, Shri concluded, who will get the apple? Pahu ata konak ya nasibat te ahi. Now we will see whose destiny it is. It all depends upon prem, love. So leave all of this, have done with explanations and the like, and do only one thing, create prem, and I will do my part, not for 17 only, but for many as I like. I have that power. Have no doubt about that. So create and increase LOVE. And what is the meaning of this prem? It means one thing only, thinking of Shri and nothing else. And if you do so, I have decided that among those whom I wish to bring down to consciousness again after realization, most will be boys. And so all this spread of illusion, I, Badha, Pasara, you will see it all. How many among the boys will become saints? Only just this morning I have told you this. The time is very near. And after bringing all of this to accomplishment, Shri will come out. The hooky must come. It is very difficult to bring this about. But once it comes, everything will be done automatically. To some, I will show God. Some, I will make one with God. And Shri continued for some time among, I need the top of the page.
Oh, is it cut off? Okay.
Yeah. And Shri continued for some time along these lines. Concluding on this topic, Shri then returned to the main theme of the day's lecture and took up once again the thread of his former explanation, conveying. Do you want to read that footnote 15?
We can skip that. It's just a literal translation of that phrase.
So, my dear boys, with respect to the case of the pilgrim on the first plane, such a one can read the minds of others, and if he wishes, sees things far off. Just think about this. There are some who, having advanced in the first plane and lacking the guidance of a guru, experience a great nod, strong attachment for reading the minds of others. There are many such persons in the world even now. But what is this nod about, and why does it arise? It does so because those who exercise such powers experience an unimaginable pleasure in doing so. It is no ordinary thing, this reading the minds of others. Of course, these first plane persons can read the minds only of those who are physically near to them, not of those who are far off. They can see at great distances, but cannot read minds of those far physically removed. If all of this can be said of a man in the first plane, what do you think of the greatness of a man in the seventh? I leave this for you to turn over in your minds. These powers and other attributes of persons in the planes will be explained by Shri tomorrow. In the meantime, reflect on what has been explained here today. But remember, do not neglect dhyan, meditation, and the creating of love for Shri. In fact, don't bother with these other matters. All this is all nothing. There is no use in wasting your time over it. You just attend to your own duties, and the most important of your duties are these: to bear in mind the orders of Shri and to act strictly accordingly. That is the only essential thing required of you. Leave all else aside. For only Paramatma is real. All else is a dream. But how to turn in order to see and become one with Paramatma? This is the question. So create love.
Okay, that's the end. Now I'm thinking that since we'd like to try to finish, maybe we should go on a little bit anyway. Maybe we could go at least as far as reading and studying this chart, even if we don't finish the whole lecture. What do you think, Cassandra?
Yeah, I think we should give it a try.
Okay, let's see how far we can go.
Let's see how far we can go before we all get elevated.
Right.
Wait,
All right.
Do you want me to continue?
please.
Okay. The plains and the skies. Before opening his lecture, Shri repeated what he had said yesterday, that he has sworn to make some 10 or 20 or 25 or 30 boys.
I think this note we can skip also. It's about the word make.
Okay. The boy's luck is so good in having come into such close proximity with the realized Sadguru. The great yogis, he continued, have been clamoring for years to see and become one with God. Some have been observing fasts for over a decade. Some have been hanging upside down for years together, yet God does not go to them. I do not go to them. There are yogis even now whose eyebrows reach down and extend even to their mouths. I can see all of them. But for all that they have undergone, still, they don't find me. Yet some among you boys will see me, as these yogis have not done. So love me. Turning to the topic of the day, Shri proceeded with a description of the skies or asmans.
Okay, now this is going to be a kind of a roadmap for the next several lectures. Why don't we read these and then look at the chart that illustrates it?
Are you okay to go on for a while, Elizabeth?
Yes.
Okay.
The skies or asmans. The Persian names for the seven skies or asmans are as below. The first sky or asman is called the Alam-e Waqtiya, the world of the moment.
Maybe read this note too. This vocabulary, Persian from Arabic, is very resonant.
Okay. This description of the seven skies and the names given to them do not correspond to any of the standard Sufi expositions discoverable in the research for this edition. For more on the Arabic-derived Urdu and Persian vocabulary in the indented list following, in parentheses, each phrase of which has been literally translated by the English phrase in parentheses, close parentheses, see glossary. Baba uses Sufi terminology in his descriptions of the fanas of the 7 planes in his discourse, The Stages of the Path. Discourses, pages 132 to 34. But none of that vocabulary corresponds with the language of this present lecture. Balkachuri provides some of these same names and further information about the plains and skies in his extended essay, The Mischievous Chicken, especially the section entitled The 7 Lanes and 14 By-Lanes, pages 62 to 66, in the Nothing and the Everything, etc. The second sky or Asman is called the Alam-e Ruhani, the world of spirits. The third sky or Asman is called the Alam-e Quds, the pure world. The fourth sky or Asman is called the Alam-e Mahfuz, the protected world. The fifth sky or Asman is called the Alam-e Asrar, the world of secrets. The sixth sky or Asman is called the Alam-e Janani, the world of the beloved. The seventh sky or Asman is called the Arsh-e Mu Allah, the throne of Allah. Now the first sky or Asman has 3 divisions, A, B, and C, as depicted in figure 36 and described below.
Okay, let's take a minute and look at this figure. The original figures, I'll show them to you. There are figures for the first 3 planes. They're very primitive. But Nadia and I came up with this chart, which summarizes a lot of what Baba will say over the next 4 lectures. So why don't we just go over it right now, because this is a very good roadmap. So down in the bottom left-hand corner here, outer world, that means the gross plane that most people are at, right? Do you see the little hand? Is that showing to you guys?
Yes.
Okay. So here we represent it this way, turning. You have to turn, as Baba has been saying, before you enter the spiritual path. Now, if you're traveling with a guru, you go directly to the first plane. Otherwise, and this is generally the case, without a guru, you wind up traveling to these skies or asmans, as Baba was saying in the lectures we've just read. So traveling without a guru, there are 3 subdivisions to the first asman or sky, the Alam-e-Waqtiya, the world of the moment. These are very beautiful words and very resonant. There's a magnificent exposition on Waqt that I read by a great Sufi named Kushairi. It's really untranslatable. Anyway, in the first division, you see dreams in the awake state. In the second subdivision of the first sky, you see light of the light globe, and you hear the Anand Nad, the blissful sound. Remember the Nad he was just talking about in this previous lecture. In the third one, you see things from afar. On the first plane, reading of those nearby. Now, the second sky the Alam-e Ruhani. Ruh means spirit. It's one of the important words for spirit in Arabic and Persian. World of spirits. It has two subdivisions, Nark or hell, and Svarg or heaven. So people from the outer world, means gross conscious people, after death experience hell or heaven here on the second plane. Their bad actions lead to the experience of hell, and their good actions lead to the experience of heaven. And this was to put into the figure the idea of these ramps. You remember how Baba said there are different ramps from each of the plane. You can take the ramp that leads you on to the higher planes, or you can take a ramp that leads you in a jaunt around the asmans or skies. That's what this is meant to represent. Here you can read the minds of those at a distance at the second plane or sky. In the third sky, the Alam-e-Quds, like some of these words, Quds is like one of the names of Allah in the 99 names of God. The pure world, Quds is purity. And this has three subdivisions. Indrapad, Indra, the king of the gods. Indrapads, that's a Hindu term, or Makam-e-Huri, the station of the Huris. Have you heard of the Huris? They're these beautiful angels on these planes. The second subdivision, the Makam-e-Qudsi, the station of purity. And the third is you have Antar Gyan. Antar means inner and Gyan means knowledge. Inner knowledge, or Kud Shanaz. Antar Gyan would be like a Hindu term, and Kud Shanaz would be an Islamic term. And here on the third plane, reading the minds of anyone, anywhere in the subtle and gross worlds up to the third plane. Now the fourth plane in sky, the sky is called the Alam-e-Mahfuz, the protected world. And you may recall in the last lecture, Baba said on the fourth plane, you go around a sharp curve. So that's been incorporated into the diagram here. Now you're on the Astan, or threshold, as Baba explained later between the subtle and mental spheres. This is the realm of siddhis. Siddhis are occult powers. And the fourth plane is the domain of Gupta Gyan. Gyan means knowledge, and Gupta means secret, thus secret knowledge. Reading, influencing, and controlling minds of others up to the third plane. Here's the fifth plane. By the way, this summarizes what we're going to be reading about over the next few lectures. The Alam-e-Asrar, the world of secrets. Sir is the singular form of the word secret. The realm of Marifat. Do you remember those four terms? Shariat, Tariqat, Marifat, and Hakikat. Marifat is the third of those. It means knowledge. This is the abode of the Arif. That's a designation Baba will give for someone on the fifth plane, one who knows. And here you experience Atma Gyan, self-knowledge, or Khuda Shanaz, knowing God. Khuda is God. In the sixth plane, beautiful word phrase, the Alam-e-Janani, the world, Alam is world, of the beloved. Here you have Sakshatkar. That's the experience of immediate presence of God. This is the abode of the seer, and here you see God everywhere. And this is the seventh plane, the Arshe Mu'ala, the throne of God. Here you have the experience of I am God. The great Vedantic phrase for this is Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman. And the Arabic phrase Anal Haq, I am the truth. I in me. This is the realm of I-ness, true I-ness. So this chart was meant to be helpful as kind of a roadmap in reading through these next few lectures. You want to go ahead and read some of this key?
Let's see if Diana, are you able to read for a while?
Okay, key to figure 36. Though the source manuscripts contain exceedingly primitive diagrams representing the first three skies only, figure 36, which provides a global overview and roadmap through the seven skies or asmans, was conceived and created by the artist-editor team, drawing upon these three source diagrams along with other information in Baba's lectures between the 28th of December 1927 and 2nd of January 1928. Most of the verbiage in Persian and English both has been taken directly from the text of Baba's own words. The spiritual path extends from the outer world of gross plane human experience at the bottom left to the seventh plane of God realization at the top right. Each of the first six planes on the right is associated with its own sky or asman on the left, the first three of which are divided into subsections. The dotted lines with arrows between the planes and skies represent the on-ramps and off-ramps by means of which a pilgrim leaves a plane, comparable to the platform of a railway station, and immerses himself in the sky, comparable to the city around the railway station, and then eventually returns from the sky to the plane. Spiritual advancement can be accomplished only as an ascent between planes. Pilgrims lost in the skies cannot progress directly to a higher sky, but have first to return to the associated plane and advance from there. For an explanation of other details in figure 36, see notes on the figures, pages 549 to 552.
This is a case where those notes on the figures do give a lot more information. So if you see here, when you're on the planes, there is a line of progress on from plane to God realization. But if you're in the skies, there is no line of progress to the higher skies. You see that? You have to actually go back to the plane if you want to advance. Also, let me just mention this, that these colors in the another literary work entirely called The Combined Diary, Baba did say that these are the colors of the seven asmans. The first is blue, the second yellow, the third red, the fourth white, the fifth black, the sixth green, and the seventh colorless. Let's see, we're 10.
Well, I think we're pretty well into it. So Ward, because this is so significant for the next few lectures,
Right.
what I'd like to do is send out both those pages, the key
Yeah.
and the figure.
Yeah.
So
That's a
people
good
can
idea.
have that with them for the next couple of lectures.
Right.
And at that point, I think we can wrap it up for this. Anything else you want to say?
Yeah. So now he's going to start going through the planes one at a time, or the skies one at a time. Okay.
All right, very good. Let us say the Beloved's Prayer.
Okay.
You can, oh wait, let me give you the power to unmute. Hang on. There you go. So go ahead and unmute if you'd like to say the prayer with us.
Okay.
Oh, beloved God,
Beloved
God,
God,
help us
help
all
us all
Love
love
you
you
more and more
more
and
and
more
more
and more
and
and
still
still
yet
yet
more,
more
till
till
we become worthy of union
union with you
and
and
help
help us
all
all
Fast.
to hold
fast
fast
Press down
to
Baba's
Baba's Dhamma
Dhamma
till
to the
till
very
the
end.
very end.
Avatar,
Avatar Bear
Bear
Baba
Baba Ki Jai.
Avatar,
Bear Baba Ki
Ki
Jai.
Jai.
Avatar,
Avatar
Bear
Bear
Baba
Baba Ki
Jai.
Jai.
Jai Baba,
Jai
everyone.
Baba.
Hang
Jai
on a
Baba.
second.
Baba.
Stop the recording.